guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julia Ambani, commonly known as Jules. On this channel we love to talk about books, literature, development, and a sprinkle of other things here and there. So if that sounds like a cup of tea, feel free to subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and let's go. So it's been a long minute since I posted anything here, 1 month to be precise. I'm just going to go ahead and blame it on adulthood. Actually, I've really just been feeling very lazy to post anything. I mean, to record and post anything. So that's why I only did one video since January, I think beginning of Feb till now. But it's okay because it's my channel and who's going to check me? No one. So yeah, that's what I love about YouTube. I can just do what I want when I want. As you've already seen in the title of this video, I'm going to be telling you the books I read in the month of February and also the books I plan to read in the month of March. February is obviously a very short month, so I only read 3 books, which to me feels okay. It's not a competition, and I'm going to share with you the 3 books that I read. But before that, guys, my Kindle came through. Okay, it shows Game of Thrones because this is what I'm currently reading. But yeah, I'm so happy to finally have a Kindle because let me tell you, the jokes that I was doing out here blind buying books and then they end up being such a disappointment and then I give them out. I'm not doing that this year. This year, I'm reading first the ebook. If I like it, I'm going to get a physical copy. If not, that's it. Capitalism or whatever, not me. Try someone else. Let's get into it. For the month of February, as I mentioned, I read 3 books. The first book I read, I believe, was Lessons in Chemistry. I forget the author, but I'm going to input it there. Lessons in Chemistry was a very, very good book for me. It's about Elizabeth Zott, who wants to be identified for who she is. That's a scientist. It's set in the late 50s, early 60s. So obviously in that time, the role of a woman was more of just being a homemaker and a caregiver to the husband and the children. So her trying to be renowned as a scientist in that era was extremely difficult. But you know what? I liked how she was stubborn, she was hard-headed, she believed what she believed and did what she did. Lessons in Chemistry has some romance in it. I think it's a romance book, but it's done so well that the romance is not there. It's not what like the whole book is about. The book is about Elizabeth, but there's a nice romance done in there. Lessons in Chemistry is honestly what I thought something like the love hypothesis would be like. Like you're telling me about a scientist and you know people in that field. This is what I expected to see. You know, it shows you about the research she's doing, the difficulties she's having, even the other researcher that she ends up dating. It's not like willy-nilly nonsense kind of dating. Like it's very good dating. You can see they really help each other in terms of the research and everything. I loved Lessons in Chemistry. I rated it a 4.25 stars. And the main reason I gave it 2.5 is that I felt like 4.5 are kind of too much, but 4 also kind of too little. I know, it doesn't make too much sense, but the one disclaimer I'll give about Lessons in Chemistry is that the writing style might not be for everyone, because I've read some reviews and I know some people who've rated it lowly, and I know maybe it's because of the writing style, because for me the first few chapters I was a bit like, I did not expect this kind of writing, but by the time I was getting maybe to 30%, I was already so engrossed in the story. And the best thing is there's humor. There's a very subtle hidden humor in that book, and yeah, I personally recommend it. If you've read it, let me know if you liked it or not. The second book I read in February is The Sword of Kaigen or Kaigen. This was the fantasy book club pick for the month of February. It's a very well-loved and well-known book, but unfortunately for me, it wasn't my cup of tea. So this book is, I will say, Asian inspired, but I don't want to be wrong. So if that's not how to term it, maybe let me know. But yeah, it just follows this main character called Misaki as she tries to juggle her past, who she is as a person and who she's expected to be, and she comes to this awakening and kind of gets to be her own person. The magic system was good. It has the elements, the water, fire elements. It wasn't a bad book. The fight scenes were extremely good. The emotional scenes were also very good. Misaki as a character, her development and her growth was extremely well written. But I just felt like the pacing in this book is what really put me off. For the first 40%, I had no idea what's going on. I was just like, bruh, what are we doing here? Then the book picks up from like 40% to 65%. The deepest action is there, I will say. Then after that, it just chills until chapter 27. I can't forget the chapter because this is the chapter that Misaki, showed how badass she is. And then, yeah, it just chilled. So for me, I gave it 3 stars. People in my fantasy book club really love it. And even the reviews of Goodreads show that people really love it. So this, it could just be me. It's just not my cup of tea, but it's a book that's highly recommended, so you can check it out if you love fantasy. The last book I read in February is this, Tomorrow I Become a Woman by Iwanose Odafen. I hope I'm not butchering that name. Yeah, let me tell you something. This book was so triggering. I'll just give a trigger warning right now. If you're considering reading this book, there's a lot of domestic violence involved. There's a lot of misogyny, patriarchy, chauvinism, whatever you want to call it. It's all here. This book basically follows the life of Uju, who is the last born in a family full of 3 sons. Sorry guys, there was a kid crying, so I had to kind of shut the door. Anyway, yeah, Uju is a daughter born as the last born in a family with 3 sons. It's set back in the day, I think in the 70s in Nigeria, where having a son was considered the best thing that could ever happen to a family. But Uju's mother really wanted to have a daughter as well, so that they can talk and share secrets and, just bond as women do. But unfortunately, Uju was not the daughter she expected, because Uju turned out to be opinionated, educated, not the stereotype woman that back in that time they expected her to be. So Uju's mom kept telling her, make sure you come back from university with a husband. And she went with this mentality, and because she really wanted to not be a disappointment to the mom, she met a guy, and the red flags were there from the word go. This guy was from the church. I'm not saying it's bad to meet people in the church, but we all know they can be wolves in sheep's clothing. So they met, got married within a short period of time, and it all goes downhill from there. This guy is always violent, beats up this chick. When the brothers of Uju try intervening to protect her, Uju's parents attack them. Honestly, it was so messed up. I know I'm not even giving it justice based on how the story is. Maybe I could do a whole separate book review for this book. And while I was so triggered with the husband and even Uju's mom, because Uju's mom was always of the opinion that you're the one doing something wrong, that's why your husband is beating you. Which marriage doesn't have a husband beating the wife? Is that something to leave your husband for? Make sure you're making him happy. Stop being too opinionated. Support him. And it made me so angry. But then also I kept having to remind myself that in the time period that it set, this was the reality. And to be so sincere, this is still the reality for some people in many parts of this Africa. I just hope that my sisters and women continue being educated and liberated to know that they deserve better. What Uju went through was so harrowing, and it even affected her children, who unfortunately happened to be daughters. So of course the dad does not really value them. But all in all, it's as much as it's heavy and triggering, it's also quite humorous in my opinion. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 stars. I highly recommend it. Now that I'm done with the books that I read in February, I'm going to tell you the books that I plan on reading in March. By the time I'm shooting this video, it's around March 6th. So I've finished one book, which is this, My Sister the Serial Killer. I read this book in one day. It's a very short and easy read. Let me tell you something. Whoever came up with this name for this book should be given an increase or a bonus, because this was really good marketing. This title, I'm sure, is what made many people want to read this book and find out more about this sister who is the serial killer. Being someone who loves watching true crime documentaries about serial killers and all those sort of things that are on Netflix, this book was a bit disappointing to me. I rated it at 3 stars, 3.5, simply because I don't know, I expected like a lot of action in it, like a lot of, I think I went in with too high expectations. However, that's not to say the book is not bad. The book is not good. The book is good. It follows 2 sisters, Korede and Ayola. Ayola dates people and somehow ends up murdering them, and Korede usually comes through to clean, dispose the body, to protect her sister, because she's grown up as the elder sister, knowing that it's her duty to always look out for Ayola, the younger sister. However, every time she covers up for Ayola, something in her dies. She does not want to keep doing this because Ayola is not apologetic. She's very entitled. Honestly, as a character, she really irritated me. So Korede is a nurse in a hospital, and in that hospital there's this doctor called Tade who she's in love with. Unfortunately, Ayola comes, then Tade falls in love with Ayola, and because Korede knows what usually happens to the men who date Ayola, she's very anxious. She tries to break it up because she knows Tade may end up dead and she'll have to clean up and all that. So basically that's the sort of book it is. I didn't mind it. As I said, I read it in one day. It's a very easy read, but I think I had higher expectations, but for what it was okay, so that's okay. Then now for the month of March, I'm reading A Game of Thrones. I've watched this entire series twice, but I've never read the book, so I'm very curious to see how I like the book. I'm doing a buddy read with my friends Alia, Soila, Anindo, I think John as well, all of them in my fantasy book club. So we're doing a buddy read, which is good because this book is super long, and I feel like with every fantasy book it can be a bit complicated, so it's good to have people to vent to or have them help you clarify something that you're not too sure of. So that's the next book I'm reading. Another book I'm reading this month is this, In Every Mirror She's Black. I blind bought this book. I just bought it on a whim, and it's been on my bookshelf for a while, but this year I'm trying to read all my unread books on my bookshelf, and so far the first chapter was super interesting, so I'm curious to see how it plays out. Another book I'm reading is A French one by Guillaume Musso. It's called La Vie est un roman. So for those who don't know, I do speak French, but let me tell you something. Reading a book that's not in your native language is a bit difficult, but for this one, I'm super surprised at how quickly I'm moving through it. So I'm currently in chapter 3. I read chapter 1 and 2 in one sitting. Then I guess I got derailed with other books. So I'm currently in chapter 3, and I'm hoping to finish this book by the end of March. So far, the way it started, it was super interesting. It's about this author whose kid mysteriously disappears, and I'm here for it. So I hope that I'll finish this book this month, because the reason this keeps being derailed, it's because it's in a different language. So obviously it's much easier for me to reach for a book that is in a language I'm comfortable with. But the most surprising thing for me is that I'm even able to read this language. I don't know, if you speak a foreign language you can maybe relate, but yeah, so far that's it. And the last book I'm reading is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. If you're African, Chinua Achebe is a household name that almost everyone knows. For some reason, I've never read any Chinua Achebe book, and I shared this with one of my friends and they were like, no, you have to try. So they sent me their copy of Things Fall Apart. As you can see, I've started reading. I only read one chapter so far, so it's not a big book. So I'm hoping to be done with this soon. I think this is a book that if I actually just get serious and sit down, I can read it in a day. So hopefully we'll see how that goes. But guys, that's my TBR for the month of March. I don't know if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I think that's a wrap for now, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whenever that will be. Bye.